the OnePlus brand has a serious problem. Now, before I get to that, what was the OnePlus brand? What was the purpose of the brand to the customers? It was basically an alternative to a flagship that was a flagship, but at a much cheaper price. It was basically a flagship killer. It had all the essential features of a flagship that everyone wanted at a lower price. And that was a really good formula. People love the OnePlus phone. The first, how many OnePlus models? Up from the first one to the, at least the sixth one, those phones sold really well. Everyone loved those phones because you got everything you wanted. And the only honest miss for the phones were the cameras. The camera wasn't up to par with the Samsung or iPhones. And when the Pixel came out, the Pixel, well, I don't think the Pixel came out before. I wonder if the Pixel came out before the 6. I don't remember. But yeah, anyway, the phones were great. But then they decided to change that strategy and move into the flagship segment. And they added added a lot of the features that the phones were missing before, and they increased the price. And it was still cheaper than the flagships, but the problem was it got too high. And even though it was cheaper, it was still high, and it became a price that people considered with flagships. And when you look at it, the other brands, Samsung and Apple, also had cheaper phones directly competing with their phone. Now, that was the first time that was happening. Before that, they didn't have any phones that were actually competing with this phone. And that became a problem. Now, the main problem OnePlus had when it became a flagship was the features that was missing. And the main features that was missing was the fact that the camera wasn't up to par. And I don't mean the close second or close third. It was right, you know, it was below the Samsung and Apple iPhones. And that was just not acceptable at that price range. Now, creating a good camera software is complicated. You need a lot of R&D, a lot of time, and you need to put a lot of work into it. And OnePlus needed to do that, and that wasn't what they were focusing on before, so they were always behind. But now, it's been a few years since OnePlus became a flagship brand, and the camera's still below them. That's the problem. And OnePlus already has a branding problem because it's competing with the flagships, because people don't consider a top tier flagship. They always remember as the flagship killer. And they're trying to change that and become a flagship, but what the main things that a flagship needs is the camera. What do people love about the flagship phones? What do people always talk about? The cameras, how great the camera is, the photo quality, the video quality. That's what the Samsung, the Ultra phones, the iPhones, and the Pixels all focused on. They have great cameras. Now, some are lacking in some areas, but overall they have great cameras. You feel like you're using a flagship when you're using those cameras. But the OnePlus, as good as it is, it doesn't feel on the same level as them. Now, it's better than in all the phones below it, but still, if you're going to be a flagship, you need to be able to compete directly in terms of camera. Everything else, honestly, the phone's great. It has great the latest OnePlus phones has a great display, great battery, honestly better battery than the other phones because of the new battery tech they're using. And yeah, overall, there's nothing you can really complain about the phone except when it comes to the cameras, and that's the big sticking point for most people. They don't want to spend that much money for a phone if the cameras aren't up to par as the other phones. And OnePlus doesn't have the brand recognition to compete with those other brands without the camera software. And they really need to do something about this soon and quickly. They have a lot of time. It's been years, and they still haven't gotten around to making the camera directly compared to Samsung, Apple, and Google. And it's becoming a serious problem, especially in the age where everyone's online all the time, everyone's taking videos all the time, everyone's posting reels, making YouTube videos, and all that. You need a good camera phone to do that. It's just not an option anymore. And OnePlus hasn't done that yet, and I don't know when they're planning on doing it. And seriously, if they bring out a phone that has as good a camera as the Samsung and Apple phones at a couple of $100 cheaper than them, those phones will sell like crazy because the Samsung and iPhones are getting more and more expensive, and people don't really want to spend that much money on a phone. And if they have an alternative that's as good as them, then they will take it. In terms of camera, at least. Because cameras are honestly the one thing that really differentiates the flagships from the budget phones in terms of people's experience. The normal, raw power of a flagship, you don't really know that unless you're using the camera. The normal user can't tell the difference between that and the budget phone when you're just using. Maybe it might be a little faster, but it's not that noticeable to everyone. So OnePlus seriously needs to step up their camera game and get competitive. And honestly, I think it could do it. I don't think it will be that difficult because it is a sub brand and it's got other brands on top of it, and I'm sure they can put the R&D into it and make it. So yeah, let's hope OnePlus finally turns things around.